Hey there, guys. Jarrett here, aka Sergeant Siage here, back again here with another video. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different here. Not so much, on the topic of like fragrances themselves, but it's still talking about it here. It's more talking about advice for beginners here, just getting into the fragrance community, and on top of that, just fragrances themselves here too. So, why am I making this video now, per se? Because, well, this is only like my fourth or fifth video going up on the channel, depending on which order they come out in. And the reason why is because I've been into this now for a little over a year. June 21st marked the 1 year mark here, and I was going to make a video then, but I was still dealing with some of my uh, surgery issues and stuff like that. So, decided to wait an extra, week or so here and come out with it a little bit later. So what ended up happening last year in the summertime here is dupe fragrances really took off in 2024. I would say that it started kind of back in like 2022 and 2021 even, but they were definitely still like very hit or miss back then. And I would say by like 2023, there was some noise there, and I would still watch like some content and stuff like that. But I would say last year, some of these Middle Eastern brands here really solidified themselves at getting like consistently good dupes out here, and maybe not one-to-one dupes. Maybe they're putting their own little twist on it or whatever have you here, but they are way better than what they used to be. And at the end of the day, whenever you're just trying to smell good, it is, it doesn't really matter if they're duping something or if they just smell good at the same time here. They're accomplishing the same thing. So what ended up happening here is I believe I was watching Finn from FB Fragrances at the time, and he was hyping this one up quite a bit. This was actually my first purchase, which was Lattafa's Fakar Black, or just Lattafa Fakar. This is supposed to be like a dupe of YSLY EDP, and it does a really good job of it. I remember getting my nose on the actual thing itself. I will say that this needed probably a good month or so to macerate, to really get a little bit closer, like that, an extra like 5-ish% closer here to the actual thing here. But whenever you smell them side by side with one another, it is, like it's missing on maybe like 5 to 10% of what YSLY EDP is doing. I would say YSLY EDP is a little bit more aromatic in that sense here. So this is a little bit more. I get a lot of like the ginger and a lot of ambroxan in this. So I mean, YSLY is already leaning on that ginger and ambroxan too, but not as much as something like this. That's where I see like the differences lie. And the other one that I got in that same order was this, this is going to represent Club de Nuit Incense Man EDT. Now, the juice in here is actually the EDP. What ended up happening to my bottle of the EDT is it actually came shipped and it was completely broke. And what ended up happening then here is I salvaged like, I don't know, like 10 to 15 mLs of it, gave it away, didn't like it, threw it away. And a few months later, I ordered the EDP, and the atomizer was completely shot. So I ended up buying like a decanter and ended up putting it in a different bottle here. So that's why it is in here. And overall, I would say I was pretty happy with my purchases. I would say the EDT version was kind of like my first, loss that I took here, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But about a week after that here, we went to the beach, and I remember it was July 1st that we went to the beach here because it was right on the cusp of 4th of July, and I ended up buying 2 fragrances while I was at the beach. And keep in mind, I was a relative beginner at this time here, but I ended up buying probably my first quote-unquote signature scent, which was Mont Blanc Explorer, which is a little bit more of a cleaner take on the Aventus DNA. So, I mean, this stuff still smells good. This stuff got, a decent amount of hate. I remember whenever it first came out, I think all the way back in like 2019, whenever I was watching content back then, and I think people really turned around on this. At the end of the day, if you just look at this as like a standalone scent on its own and not trying to like replicate the Aventus style DNA, I almost dropped it there, but I think it's a really good scent on its own. Now, is it going to give everybody a great longevity? No, I've heard a lot of people say this doesn't give them great longevity in, its long run, but I do. I get pretty good longevity on this. Maybe not great projection wise here, but still fantastic fragrance in and of itself. But we'll get into that a little bit later too. So the other one that I ended up getting is one that I would say is a pretty slept on. It came out last year from the house of Michael Malul. It is Zest in Vetiver. I see that this is slowly getting some traction now. Some people are beginning to talk about Michael Malul a little bit more. I know, Ash from Gent Sense worked with, the company and stuff to make his scents, and I think this stuff is fantastic. The way that I would describe this is, imagine if Sauvage went back, Dior Sauvage went back to like the 80s. It's a little bit more of an older style version of that sort of DNA, very mass appealing. Everybody's going to like it. Not very offensive, but you do kind of have to like vetiver here because it is a little bit, dry and it's dry down here. So I like this scent a lot. I've come back to it here just recently because, sometimes you'll have like fragrances sitting on your shelf or something and you'll just forget about them. And I've been coming back to this a lot more in the last 3 weeks or so here whenever I pulled it out for this video. And for a while here, that was kind of where I wrapped it up here. So now I just want to talk about, I want to kind of get this out there a little bit quick, but I want to talk about just some advice for the beginners here. So what I would probably do here is I would definitely start, if you're just getting into it, go get yourself a blue fragrance here. What do I mean by that? Something that you can wear every single day. I think that's kind of the starting point where everybody would like to start, like with Mont Blanc Explorer and even like Zest and Vetiver or Facar. Any of these four that I just mentioned are something that you can wear every single day. They're not going to be, offensive or anything of that nature to anybody, and you're going to be fine. You're going to smell good, and you're going to be A-okay. But with that being said here, as I have gotten into fragrances a little bit more, if you are going to blind buy, you definitely have to take a look in the mirror yourself here and kind of realize, yeah, you're going to take some losses sometimes here. And for me, the first one that I did here, I think it was my 6th or 7th fragrance that I was buying last July. And what was getting a lot of traction back then was Al Wantanaya's high-end classic, which is supposed to replicate Dior Homme Intense. So what ended up happening here is I bought it, smelt it in the air, smelled great in the air. The iris was like very creamy, almost, smelled like a orange creamsicle with some like powdery undertones to it. Smelled really good. And then I sprayed it on skin and it just instantly went to the like lipstick pretty much. And iris can do that sometimes. It can have like this lipsticky quality to it. The one, designer that does it really well to where it is like very creamy or just a powdery, clean smoothness is Prada. Prada does it really well here, especially in Prada L'Homme. That stuff is phenomenal here. So, fantastic stuff here. But for me, Al Wantanaya high-end classic here was a loss. It was not good to me, even though the reviews on it are really high and stuff. So you got to kind of watch out for like the echo chamber here of stuff here, because what works for somebody else is it might not work for you. So you got to make your own judgments on that kind of stuff. And that was kind of my judgment on that. It was a loss. So, you got to realize that you're going to hit 85-90% of the time, most of the time, and you're probably going to miss one or two in every 10 fragrances here you're gonna whiff. So that is going to be that. Watch the echo chamber, because I think what is ending up happening, and I think this is a bad thing over time here, so just keep this in mind here, and maybe I'll mark down that I said this at this time here, but you see it a lot this year, because this summer has been a shit ton of Pacific Chill dupes and a shit ton of Pacific Chill and come on, Jarrett, the other Louis Vuitton. It's been all Louis Vuitton stuff here. And I know if I open up the closet behind me here, I'm going to see it, and I'm going to be like, come on, man, how can you not think of that? But you've seen a lot of Pacific Chill dupes, and the other one from another house is God of Fire. You've seen a lot of God of Fire dupes here, so keep that in mind. It gets so convoluted in this space here. Like the Aventus video, you can wear Aventus any day of the year and get away with it. You can wear anything that you want any day of the year, but wear Pacific Chill and God of Fire, they are going to shine in the best is the heat, the high heat during the summertime, because their top notes are very volatile and they're going to project a little bit more. So with that being said, you got to kind of watch out here for that kind of stuff, because if you're really going to buy a bunch of these dupes of the same fragrance that you can only wear during the summertime, it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Because are you going to go out and spend $40 more on something that's going to be 5 to 10% better than what you have already? And I think the answer for most people is going to be no. They're going to move on to another DNA and try to get their nose on as many DNAs as possible. So with that being said here, it kind of like leads into my next one here, and that is, do I have any like purchases that I absolutely regret? Yeah, I do, for the right reason, the wrong reason. The Alwan Tanaya Cayenne Classic would be a wrong reason, and for the right reason, there's two offhand. There's one that I just mentioned here, so but the two that I would say are for the right reasons are one that TLTG Reviews hypes up a lot, which is Salvatore Ferragamo's Aqua Essential Blue. I love this stuff. I've worn it a lot, and during the daytime, if I'm going out and running errands or something, I'm gonna, I'll slap it on and I won't even think about it. The problem is it only gives you like 4 to 5 hours of longevity, and it just kind of makes you want a more concentrated version of that style of DNA. Like I would love them to come out with a flanker of it, an eau de parfum version of it, and move on from that. But I don't think we're going to get that, because I think it came out in like 2014 or something like that. But that's one for the right reasons, and the other one would be Mont Blanc Explorer. And this is a right reason because this was a fantastic thing for a beginner to get into, and it definitely allowed me to adjust to the DNA, because remember, I got my nose on the EDT version of Club de Nuit Intense Man prior to this, and I didn't really like that, but I really liked this, so it allowed my nose time to mature a little bit, so I think it's just money well spent. However, would I go out and purchase this again? No, and the reason why is because for around the same price, you can go out and get a pretty solid juice here. You can either go out and get the limited edition of Club Nuit Intense Man here, which I think I have actually like right here. I don't want to break the bottle here, but so you can go out for a few bucks more, grab this, and this stuff is fantastic. The only thing that this doesn't do is it doesn't project as loud as some of the other ones do, so you kind of have to make your own judgments on that. But the one that I would say that hovers around the same price as this, that's just way better and has great longevity, is Dumont's Solario Oros here. This stuff is just fantastic. It kind of mixes in the Hachibat DNA too. So yeah, I mean, this stuff is just fantastic. I've been wearing this a lot during the summertime and the springtime here this year after I got it. And then you're going to have the last thing here, which I'm going to mention, is fragrances that you're not going to like at first, and maybe they're going to come around and you're going to like them as time goes along or as they macerate. I know a lot of people get sick and tired of hearing that word when it comes to these Middle Eastern brands here, but I did a video a little bit ago here, and one that I'm coming around on, even though I don't really like the original DNA itself, but one that I am coming around on is Lattafa's Art of the Universe, which is supposed to be a blue talisman, but I get less blue talisman from this. And I just get like that lotiony style of DNA that you would get from like City of Stars, but instead of like lime, it's more of like a pear, like a musky pear style of like lotion here. So I think the reason why I like this so much here is because I think every time that I wear this now here, it just reminds me of being, you know, on the beach at night or something like that, on the boardwalk at night. And it just gives me like that very like sort of tropical vibe here to it. I don't know how to explain it, but I think I'm coming around to it. I think I initially gave it like an 8 or a 7.75 or something like that. It would probably just stay at like the 8 or the 8.25 range here, but it's something that I don't mind picking up and wearing now anymore. To where like whenever I first got it, it was a little off. It seemed like, and it has matured to where it smells a lot better than what it used to. So, you know, I'll give it credit where credit is due there. So you do got to kind of give these things time to sit, unless they're like a designer, because designers typically will, you know, they'll age their batches a good 3 to 4 months before sending them out. So just keep that in mind too. But that's going to wrap it up here for the video today. That's kind of my advice on some like beginner tips here, getting into the fragrances. Maybe not actual fragrances themselves. Maybe we'll do another video on that, of like my underrated purchases here that I've made whenever I first started out here, or in my first year or so of doing this here. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your weekend here, and a good 4th of July if I don't see you before then. So, yep, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.